Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy October. I thought I wasn't spooky enough in the last video, so I got this headband as an accessory. Also, if you hear any noises, it could be from outside or my washer and dryer, since it is laundry day. So hopefully that's not too distracting. But, it is what it is. I gotta do laundry and I want to record. So here we are. So, I technically have already reviewed this movie, but I cannot access my own video. So, if anybody knows anything about Max or something, help a brother out. But yeah, so basically, I guess it's supposed to be in the cloud, but since my cloud is not connected to my phone or something, that is my theory. But I can't re-download it. I can't save it. I can't send it to myself. Nothing. But it's okay because I would have re-uploaded it, but I actually want to talk about the original trilogy of this movie. So I'm going to talk about Candyman, the 2021 sequel. So when I looked it up, it's a direct sequel to the 1992 movie. They just ignored everything else, which I haven't heard bad things about the sequel, so but maybe they'll fix the issues. We'll have to see. So either next week I'm going out of town, but definitely the week after I will review the trilogy of the original Candyman from the 90s. Let you know what I think. So, the 2021 Candyman was directed by Nia DaCosta. It was released August 27th, 2021. The cast is Yahya, I hope I say this name right, Abdul Mateen II as Anthony McCoy, a visual artist who becomes obsessed with the Candyman's legend. And he does. Oh, also, I'm going to give a huge spoiler alert, just in case. I feel like I'm going to spoil not a lot, but I'm just going to give a warning. They have Coleman Domingo as William Billy Burke, a Cabrini Green resident who tells Anthony about the Candyman's legend. Tiana Paris as Brianna Bree Cartwright, Anthony's girlfriend and art gallery director. And then so those are the two main characters. Well, technically, Anthony's the main character, and then he lives with his girlfriend Brianna, but they're pretty much the main characters. But also, William Burke does play a large role in the movie. That character. So Helen Lyle comes back. So that was Virginia Madsen. So it's like her voice on like archive images. She was a graduate student who was able to defeat the Candyman after sacrificing herself years ago. I don't know. I think the original movie it was made in the 90s, but I think it was also supposed to be based in the 90s. You know what I mean? So when I looked at this movie, it's supposed to be based in 2019, even though it came out like 2 years after, which I don't know why they had to specify a year, because it's pretty modern. So, you could just, I don't know. But yeah, so that's when it's supposed to be for the new Candyman. Oh, so of course the legendary Tony Todd as Daniel Robitaille, a vengeful spirit who was killed as a result of an interracial love affair during the 19th century. He appears when someone summons him by saying his name 5 times while facing a mirror. So that was the original Candyman. He's also in this movie. So the synopsis for the movie, if you don't know, if you've never heard of Candyman, you've never seen it, or you haven't seen it in a long time, or you haven't seen this movie. So here's the synopsis. For decades, the housing projects of Chicago's Cabrini Green were terrorized by a ghost story about a supernatural hooked-handed killer. In present day, an artist begins to explore the macabre history of Candyman, and not knowing it would unravel his sanity and unleash a terrifying wave of violence that puts him on a collision course with destiny. So yeah. So there is a twist in the movie, and like I said, I already said the spoiler alert. I'm probably going to say what the twist is, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over my cons. My pros first, my cons, and my overall opinion. And I have a monologue that I wrote. I read it before, but I'm going to reread it again. So the pros I have with this movie were the directing and the cinematography. This movie was shot so beautifully and very aesthetically pleasing, like for a horror movie. I mean, of course, they have a lot of dark parts because that's what a horror movie has. But the other parts of it was like really, I wouldn't say like cheerfully bright, but like it was pretty clear and like they had good color palette, like the greens and when he went to visit the critic. This is when Anthony went to visit the critic. It was like everything was just so like aesthetically pleasing and clear and interesting. So yeah. Um, and all the shots look so creepy yet mesmerizing. Like when you're like the whole movie building up to this inevitable thing. You know what I mean? And I think the director Nia DaCosta and the cinematographer John Gulicierin, I know I said his name wrong. They did an amazing job on capturing the setting of this movie. Like it's very atmospheric, very creepy. It's not. Now I'm not saying go see Candyman in the mirror, even though we know he's not real. I still wouldn't do it. But it just put you in the atmosphere of this world, all of the tension, all of the all the things that are happening to Anthony and him, basically losing his mind, you know. And another thing that I thought was a pro was the social justice aspect, racial justice aspect, and vengeance and the changing motives of Candyman. So in the original, Candyman was just killing anybody. I mean, he still kills anybody, but I'm gonna go into that. So I love this Candyman lore is now tied to a cause to help the people in Cabrini Green and other places. Like first in the original Candyman, he was just killing everyone. Although you know what, if you summon him, you still die. So I mean, that's not really that much different. But so that's kind of like a catch-22 of the new lore. If you summon him, he's gonna come. But also, he's like a symbol of social justice, and I love that the focus was not on some white savior, which I hated about the original. Even though I'm gonna have to rewatch the original because I want to talk about the original trilogy. So, my prediction. This is a prediction for me. I'm not really gonna be a fan of like the franchise of the first trilogy, but who knows? I haven't watched all of them yet. I only watched the first one, and that was like a while ago. And I'm gonna watch it again. I'm gonna open up my mind, keep an open mind. That's what I'm gonna do. But I don't know. That's my predictions. I'm not really gonna be a fan. And then of what I know about the sequels, because I watched like Dead Meat and the Kill Count, I don't think it's gonna get better. But hey, this is Candyman. He's a black horror icon. We got one. There was Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, all these other white serial horror icons. We got one. So that's what it is. Okay. So we're gonna talk about the transformation of Anthony, which I've already said. Spoiler alert. So I enjoy seeing the different Candymans throughout his history and why they became him. I guess I should make him capital. But anyway, I think tying in Anthony as the baby Candyman tried to sacrifice was a very interesting twist. I like that we got to see his descent into madness and becoming Candyman. I think that was an interesting change that was made for this film. Because before, Candyman, one guy, one wronged guy, one guy just terrorizing the ghetto. Well, I guess, will he be a guy because he's dead? He will be like, they did call him a ghost, so supernatural ghost. So one supernatural ghost just tearing up the ghetto and tearing up the people in the ghetto. But this time it's like interesting, like you see the different like social justice issues, like of why certain people became the Candyman, which I find interesting because you don't become Candyman until after you die, which is interesting. Which technically, the original Candyman did not become the Candyman until after he died. So, which I mean, I feel like that kind of happens, like when, like the supernatural horror people, Michael Myers. Did Michael? I know that he's died a few times, but I wasn't sure. I have to watch it. I'm not sure if he's already dead and he's just supernatural human being, ghost person. I know Freddy Krueger's dead, but yeah, I'm assuming that that's kind of how horror icons happen. Besides Chucky, because you know, but he technically, the human version of Chucky did die, and he put himself in a doll. So yeah, you gotta die to become the horror icon. So yeah, I like that. That was really interesting. It just showed the different ones, particularly Sherman, who I'm not saying he should have died, but why are you popping out of holes in walls for? And that was just weird. And I mean, I feel like if they found out that he was innocent, you know, and he did not put any razor blades in people's candy, well, why are you giving candy to random children? I still feel like that's weird. But anyway, but yeah, and then my last pro is the acting. I think everyone in this movie did a great job as their characters. They're all very believable considering, you know, supernatural circumstances. Of course, LOL. I love that the couple at the heart of the film were black. And I also love how Brianna at first thought the whole legend was madness, but then used it to her advantage at the end. I won't spoil that. But yeah, she gets some help from the Candyman. So, my cons were parts of the story were kind of patchy. So, the story with William Burke and Brianna's father felt very incomplete to me. So William, you know what? I think I'm going to talk about that, so I'm not going to freestyle that one. I wish they had either cut them out or added more to those elements of the story. I wanted to know why Burke felt like he had to be the one to help Anthony transform into Candyman, and I wanted to know why Brianna's father had like committed suicide, even though they kind of mentioned that he like was an artist and he went crazy, but like that's it. That's kind of it. And they talk about like getting his artwork and stuff, but that's it. They don't really go too much deep into that. And I felt like Burke, you could theorize that he felt guilty about having, as a child, for having Sherman, because you know they were looking for Sherman because they found razor blades and candy, and he gives people candy. So a little white girl got some candy with a razor blade in it. So they was looking for him. And then when he saw Sherman come out of the wall when he was in the laundry room, he screamed. The police came and brutally beat him to death. So I feel like maybe you could theorize that with Burke, but and why he felt like he had to keep the legacy going. But we don't really have answers for Brianna's father. They kind of threw that in. I guess it was supposed to be parallel because someone she loved, you know, got too involved in his art and died, and then someone else she loves got too involved in his art as well. And even though I liked the twist, the connection between Anthony and Candyman, I felt like it was kind of obvious. I don't know if I remember from like when I first watched it, it being like super obvious to me when I watched it in theaters, but you know, it kind of makes sense in a way. It seems like it's like kind of cliche, like it's too easy a connection. And I feel like the twist could have been even bigger, maybe. I don't know how, but you know, I felt like it could have been a bigger twist than just, you know, that as the connection. But you know, if you watch it, you know, you'll it's like little breadcrumbing that you connect the dots, and then finally, you know, it's revealed. So my overall opinion. So overall, I enjoyed this movie. It's very creepy and atmospheric, and it was shot beautifully. I have a typo. I enjoyed that the story didn't have a white savior angle from the original, which I don't know, I didn't like that. Because why white people, and they made a point about that. They talked about gentrification and how white people make the ghetto, and then they drive people out of the ghetto to like make it nicer, you know. I like the story for the most part, except for some gaps in the storytelling, which I talked about. You know, the two Burke and the dad. I think the first time I watched it, I didn't like the slow burn of it, but watching it a second time, I actually enjoyed the building of tension and suspense. Because in my original notes, I did not like the pacing of the climax. But you know what? Actually, after watching it, I feel like that's kind of nice. You're not just bombarded with like, the twist all at once or anything. Even though kind of at the end you kind of are, but like, you're getting there. You know. I would give it a 7 out of 10. It was very interesting, and I like the new direction that the legend went in. Basically, for some reason in my old notes, I'm going to talk about that. I talked about the gentrification, which you know, they kind of touched on, but I feel like they should have really went in on it. Which I think I talked about that before. I talked about the legacy camera transformation. For some reason, the transformation was in the pros and the cons. I don't know why, because now I like the transformation. Um, I talked about the right savior. For some reason, I like the first half and like the very ending, but not the middle. But actually, I actually enjoyed the whole thing, the whole way through. And for some reason, my cons list, uh, Anthony's girlfriend was on there. Maybe I thought she was annoying. I don't know. But now when I looked at it a second time, I didn't think she was annoying. So I don't know why I put her on there. Yeah, William Burke, that was still on my cons. And the introduction of the Legend of Candyman, which is kind of interesting to me because it's introduced by, it's kind of nonchalantly introduced by Brianna's brother Troy, and it's like, and then he's like, I guess, if you're going to be obsessive about something, of course people are going to think it's weird, but like Troy thinks it's weird, and he's the one who like introduced him to the legend, so I'm like, it's kind of your fault. But I mean, not really his fault, but but basically, like, they say that you're not supposed to talk about Candyman. Like, they had all the people reading said they weren't going to say his name or anything, and so then I'm kind of wondering how Troy fit into that, because Anthony's the baby, but so he planted the seed. So Troy planted the seed in him, but he was not in Cabrini Green. But they say like it had to be a catalyst, like he had to find his way back to becoming the Candyman. So I don't know how that worked. That was another thing that I feel like they could have tightened up actually. But I wrote a monologue. So this is just Candyman talking. I'm not gonna do the voice, but I want to say Tony Todd is he's very great. I think he's really, as far as when I watched the original and like this one, it wasn't like a huge. He didn't have like a lot. He didn't really have like a huge role, but you know what? He is the legend. So, honestly, if it just focused on like him in the original and not Helen Lyle, like maybe his criteria. I guess technically his criteria to kill you is that you call him, which I feel like is kind of bare minimum. Like you don't want me to do something bad before you come and slice me up. You know what I mean? But anyway, so here's the monologue. I am your vengeance. I am your savior. No more are we the victims. No more are we the ones who suffer. I was surviving off my legend, but now I survive off my people's justice. We are our ancestors now because they fought back and died for us to be free. We will be free and we will fight fire with fire. They destroy us with guns, yet we come with our hands up. They destroy us by hanging us from trees, yet we come with candles to appease them. We are our ancestors because they would spit in the faces of our opposers. I don't know if I was supposed to put we aren't or we are, but I'm going to go with we are. Because, I wrote it last year, so I don't remember my thought process. But I'm going to keep going. Why do we need to keep the peace when we have never had any peace? Why can't we live our lives without being disturbed? We no longer work in plantations, but in prison yards. They abuse us in new ways, tearing our families apart through CPS. They can legally kidnap our children for any reason they choose. They could say we are the aggressors no matter what is on film. No matter what is captured, we're always the enemy. We are supposed to want kumbaya, but even Martin Luther King was in talks with Malcolm X. All they know is violence, so that's why they project it onto us. All they know is sickness, uncleanliness, and evilness, so they project it onto us. Why are we peaceful negotiators? But we are peaceful negotiators no more. They only think of how We can be useful for them, but when have they ever been useful for us? So yeah, which I feel like, when I read that again, I was like, should I change it? Should I make something new? But no, it's pretty still accurate. Like just a few days ago, um, and just in the last few months, even after the big protests and stuff, like there's still police brutality. People still harassing black people just living their lives. It's still a bunch of BS we gotta go through. Which I mean, unfortunately, until Jesus comes back and blows up the earth or whatever they're gonna do, there's a lot of stuff that could happen when the earth ends. But until Jesus comes back, or if you believe in Allah, or you believe in reincarnation, until we come back to some other peaceful reality, this is what we gotta deal with. You know what I mean? So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If I don't make a video next week, I will see you in 2 weeks, so that I don't rush myself, even though I'm actually excited to look at the trilogy, even though I feel like it's gonna be trash. But sometimes it's kind of like nice to trash something. You know what I mean? Sometimes you watch something and it's not the best, and so you want to talk shit. So it could be fun. We'll see. Either it's gonna be fun or frustrating for me. So we'll see. But I really enjoy that we have, like, black people. We got something, a little sign. But yeah, although we have like Blackula and like Superfly and different things that are like iconic, but not really for horror too much, other than Blackula. But yeah, all right. So I will see you all potentially next week, but definitely in 2 weeks.